We are in the $1 Million Mindset period of our podcast. We are joined today by Matt Hart. He's been a friend of the podcast for a while. Matt, welcome again.
Thanks for having me.
Matt is joining us in the Sydney leg of Launch 2026, and we want to have him here today to give you a little teaser and a sample. He's incredibly successful in recruitment, and he's a quiet achiever. That's what I like about you. You're just you're a very unassuming guy and very sort of chill. But like when I start talking to you, and the depth and the wins that you've had are just awesome. So I love talking about it. But just for those guys at home and girls at home who don't know who Matt is, he's been a $1 million biller from pretty much the minute he became a recruiter. Very consistent in that space. Top biller when he first started recruitment. He was a top biller 6 years in a row, and off the back of that, launched his own agency. When did you launch that agency?
Back end of 2023.
2023. So like 2.5 years ago. He's now got 9 people in that business. So he's done incredibly well to scale that thing up. The thing that gets me is that you work across Australia, US, the UK as the predominant sort of jurisdictions. You do some stuff in Middle East and Asia as well. How on earth do you sleep?
Yeah, there's not much sleep Monday to Friday. Add the 3 kids on top of that. It's by the end of the week, I'm in the sleep debt zone. But I guess just like a day-to-day look, I typically get up sort of 5:30 and I've got calls or emails with Northern Hemisphere, typically US. And I'll typically work the traditional sort of 9 to 5 hours for the Australian business, home for a couple of hours with the kids, and then once they're down, typically catching up on UK and other bits and pieces. So it's manageable.
They're long hours.
They are long hours.
They're long hours. What do you do to sort of keep you making sure that you are fit, healthy, balanced? Or is there no balance at the moment?
Look, I think, there's periods where the balance is lacking. At the moment, it's there. As I said to you earlier, like I'm trying to carve out one morning a week where it's going for a surf or, doing something else for myself to clear my head. So yesterday I went to Urban Surf for an hour or so and then drove into the office. I was there mid-morning. So I'm trying to balance the relentlessness of the work with keeping up the fitness and the...
Has that relentlessness, because that's a long day, right? Has it ever caught up with you? Have you ever gotten to a point where you're like, I am maxed out? Have you ever burnt out or hit a wall to a point where it's actually quite detrimental?
Yeah, it's interesting. I would say that I did in my previous agency. So towards the end of my tenure there, I identified that I was burning out and that I needed to make a change. And, one of those changes was starting my own agency, not to take back foot for other reasons, but to help me with that, I started seeing a health coach. And so I'm now... 3 years into that with a guy called Luke Maslin, who'd be an awesome podcast guest, by the way.
Tell me more. So health coach, what's this? Not a gym coach?
No, he's a holistic health coach. He was he's a former recruiter. He was at Robert Walters for many years. I actually sat next to him in my first recruitment job.
Right.
Super fit, healthy guy, very nutrition, health, fitness focused.
Right.
And he left recruitment to set up a health coaching business.
Amazing.
And in 2023, I started my work with him. And that was everything from your bloods to, other tests, like hair tissue tests.
Wow.
And then a program with him where you're looking at, where are your markers in relation to your actual age range. And there are a bunch of markers that were way down, so it was clear that I was sliding towards a crash.
Right.
And he's changed my life with some more rigor around my health.
That's interesting. Were you doing things that people you thought were healthy? People think, I eat this, therefore it must be healthy, or I'm doing that, therefore, or were you doing some really damage? Were you drinking a lot, or was it like, what was it? Are you able to talk about?
Yeah, for sure. I was doing all of that. Like
Yeah.
I was burning the candle at both ends. I drank most days, not in like excess, but 2 to 3 beers by the end of the week. That's however many. And then I was still having, relatively large weekends. On top of being a dad, on top of sort of managing a team. So I've cut, like since working with him, next month I'll be 2 years no alcohol.
Great.
I also changed my diet. So I just everything from the smoothie that I have in the morning, much more protein throughout. So he's helped me to understand, not that I was super unhealthy in terms of my habits apart from the alcohol, but little bits that I could clean up to allow me to have more sort of energy, strength otherwise through the day.
I love it. I mean, I'm all for it. If you've listened to this or you've ever spoken to me in any detail, I was like, I'm all about this stuff. How do you think that's flowed through to your desk and your work?
So I don't think the business would be where it is today without my work with Luke. No way. Because like it started with the foundations around like nutrition, sleep. So whilst I'm not sleeping a heap during the week, the quality of my sleep in those short hours sometimes is much, much better than it was. And then stress management. And the stress management piece has improved dramatically as my health has improved.
Well, you're able to handle more, right?
Yeah. So, everything from like you've got no hangovers, right? But you've also just got like you've had better sleep and you feel better through the week. So how's it flowed through? Yeah, we wouldn't be where we are today as a business, and I wouldn't be where I am like as a leader in the business and as a family man without that work. So I think, I identified that a few years ago, and it's been progressive and we've layered that in, but it's one of the best decisions I've ever made.
I love it. You're obviously a very driven individual. Like every time I see you talk, I'm just like, you have an intensity about you, which is good. Like it works for you. And I think the fact you've identified that a health coach might help you balance that out a little bit, because sometimes people who are very driven like that, it's just in them and there is no break, right?
Yeah.
At times I get that. It's almost like a Ferrari with an accelerator and no brakes. And you're like, and you've got to kind of find them sometimes. But so we talked about dealing that with the health side of things, but where do you think that drive comes from? Where is it? Have you always been like this?
Yeah, I think I've always been like very self-motivated from early on, school, sport. I've always been competitive and wanting to do my best. And I think that's just carried through, like, as you know, with recruitment, it's not the most, it's not always fun, right? And I feel like if you're not here to do it properly and give it your all, then you should be somewhere else doing a traditional 9 to 5. So I think, it's a case of, if you're going to do something, do it properly. And then I think outside of that, now, like you, I'm a dad. I've got, a mortgage. I've got the 3 kids, school fees, what have you. So there's responsibilities. But, I don't have the ambition to, own super yachts and do all of that sort of material stuff. I think I just want to be known as a good operator who, does a good job and leads a team that respects him.
Something I take away from what I've heard and seen and how you operate, like we talk about $1 million bill status and things like that. And I've always said, and they say about billionaires, people go, oh, why do they need more billions? It's because it's not about the money. It's actually about the money's just the scorecard that what you're doing is working, or it's a scorecard, right? So I get a sense for you hit on it just now. You just have such pride in your work and like your reputation. You just want to make sure that what you say you follow through on, that people respect what you, I think that's the core of what drives you in that. The money's secondary.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, it helps pay the bills and whatever. But I get the sense that if you undertake an assignment, like it's almost your ego's on the line. I'm very similar like that, where people go, oh, why do you've made so much? It's like, because I've told that person I'd do it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think you bang on. Like I've always hated letting people down. And I still think about times in my life where I have let people down. And, at the moment, like with the team, I would hate to let them down. Clients, candidates, same thing. So there's a bit of that for sure. And, I have such a great team at Recrevi that all have that like similar mindset. And, people like Erica, my right-hand lady who, sometimes it gets a bit much for us all, like how dedicated we are to the cause. But we're all pulling in that direction, and it's about like a standard that you're setting. And it's not sort of a standard that you set and then you walk away from. It's like that's the standard every single day.
I'm going to call it people pleasing. Like, you're a people pleaser, right? Whether that comes from wherever that comes from, it can translate horribly when it comes to running a business, right? Because then all of a sudden you're so used to people pleasing candidates and clients, and you're really good at that, and it's sort of in your DNA. And then when you build a team, you kind of start going, I've got to help them, please them, look after them.
Yeah.
But have you had to adapt at all from running a desk and running clients and candidates to running a team in terms of that element of it?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of that. Like I've identified a couple of times where, I've been too much of a nice guy as it relates to, managing the team and some underperformance. I've tried to think about ways that I can get the best out of people when it hasn't been working, where I've been perhaps just a bit too soft or a bit unclear or what have you. It's never going to be in my box to, I think, come down hard and be a hard, uncompromising leader. But I know that, I've made some hiring decisions that haven't worked out. And, could they have been better in the end if I had taken sort of a different approach to them at the beginning, perhaps?
Yeah, cool. Look, we've got plenty to talk about, and we could keep going on, but this is the point. You're going to be at Sydney in this. I just think you guys don't understand how much of a success Matt is at his desk. He doesn't want to beat his chest too hard about billings, but he has made a lot of money, and he does really good work at what he does. So it's awesome to get you back on, man. So I just want to leave you with one last question for anyone listening here, is because I like asking this question because I'm starting to get some unique answers, right? KPIs, right? I don't think you're big on them, but if you had to pick a metric that mattered or something that you pointed to go, if we do this right, then everything else is going to be okay. Like, what's the metric that you kind of look at to go, it's going right, I know the pipeline's going right because of this, or it's going wrong because we haven't done enough of this? Like, what is that metric for you?
So, yeah, I don't have any like formal KPI tracking, but for me, I kind of loosely each week I'm looking at the team, who they're having calls with, and then what's flowing off the back of those calls. Are they speaking, one, to the quality that we want to be speaking to, and then two, if they are getting those candidates on the call or going out to coffee with them, are those candidates then engaging with them to make those applications, or are they going to other recruiters? Because, in legal, if you are having a good or a high ratio of call to CV, that's a good quality CV that you can action. If your client base is good, then you're going to have a lot of success. But it can take time. When you're sort of starting out and it's your first year as a legal recruiter, that ratio is much smaller than what it is, 10 years later. I think that there's like different things that you can employ as it relates to those conversations to help with that ratio. But yeah, I guess to your point, that's what I loosely track. And I think that as that improves, your billings do too, and that's what I've noticed.
Severely short, candidate short market, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mate, I love it. Thank you so much for coming on. That is all we have time for today, guys. As you know, tickets selling red hot for Perth, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane for launch 2026. If you have not got your ticket, you may have missed out already, but go and check the links below because there are a few left. See this guy in Sydney. Matt, thank you again. Guys, that's all we have time for. Like, share, subscribe. Helps us grow. As always, have an amazing day and may all your deals come true.